President Trump appeared to confirm he has spoken directly to North Korean leader Kim Jong-un. Here is the video from Mar-a-Lago Tuesday evening.
Have you been speaking directly with Kim? Have you been speaking directly with him?
Yes.
Wait, you've been speaking directly with him?
Yes.
Okay, we should note it is not completely clear the president was answering the question about direct talks with Kim. But earlier in the day, speaking to the media, President Trump said the U.S. is speaking directly to Pyongyang on, quote, very high levels. The news comes as the president met with Japan's Prime Minister Shinzo Abe at his Mar-a-Lago estate in Florida. Caitlin Huey-Burns is a CBSN political contributor and national political reporter for Real Clear Politics. All right, so Caitlin, let's take a step back here. The Prime Minister Abe praised President Trump's courage for moving forward on talks with North Korea, but there is concern that the U.S. won't discuss North Korean missiles that pose a threat to Japan. Where do relations between the U.S. and Japan stand right now?
Well, the president says they're very good. He invited Abe to his resort in Mar-a-Lago. Remember, they have met here before, and they have developed a relationship over the course of the Trump administration. Abe was among the first to reach out to Trump when he was elected to show a unified front, knowing the threats that they would face together. Of course, this North Korea potential meeting is first and foremost on the agenda. Also, though, of course, sanctions and trade pertaining to the president's policies announced. And we'll have to see exactly how the White House clarifies that just then. It was very ambiguous what the president was saying there and unclear if he actually heard the question. Of course, that would be monumental news if they had been speaking directly. But earlier in the day, they were talking about locations and some parameters for the meeting.
Well, the president has indicated that he is open to re-examining the Trans-Pacific Partnership, that trade deal. Could we see the Trump administration perhaps make a direct trade agreement with Japan?
Well, we'll see. The president's MO has been to do just one-on-one trade deals instead of big multilateral deals. It's very interesting, the positioning on TPP, of course. This was a big campaign promise of the president, but it was always a bit confusing because he was always talking about it in terms of being tough on China, withdrawing to be tough on China, which was counter to the original intent of this agreement in the first place. And the president has always been in favor of making deals one-on-one. So we'll have to see what comes out of this then. But he was encouraged by Republican lawmakers last week to re-enter negotiations into TPP. But again, because of the withdrawal and other countries moving forward, it's still not clear what that would look like if the U.S. were to re-enter.
Let's talk about Russia. After U.S. Ambassador to the UN Nikki Haley said that new sanctions against Russia were imminent, the White House walked back those comments later. Minority Leader Chuck Schumer called out that mixed messaging on the Senate floor Tuesday. Let's listen to that.
Nikki Haley must be so embarrassed today that she forthrightly says we're going to be tough on Russia and do additional sanctions one day, and the president contradicts her the next. Do they talk to each other? Do they have a set plan? Or is it just up to the president's whim, day by day, moment by moment? When it comes to Russia, that's far too serious to rely on whim, changing attitudes, and maybe an 800 gorilla in the room.
So the president's chief economic advisor, Larry Kudlow, said Tuesday it might have been, quote, momentary confusion on the part of Nikki Haley. She's now pushed back, telling Fox News, quote, I don't get confused. What kind of signal does that send when you have these kind of mixed messages coming from the administration?
Well, the signal from Nikki Haley is that she doesn't want to be undermined. Of course, when you send out your UN ambassador on a Sunday show, as they did with Nikki Haley, this is setting the agenda for the week. Presumably, you assume in most administrations, even in this chaotic one where communications don't go as usual, that there is a plan here to announce whatever they're going to announce. And of course, the president had been taking a tougher line on Russia. The administration had been talking about sanctions. And what this does is it really disempowers Nikki Haley to be able to do her job, so that when she does go to the UN, people around the world, as you see in that footage, would likely question the credibility of her statements from here on out if the president is, and the White House especially, are taking them back. So They could say that this is a communications failure. Nikki Haley is saying that she was on the mark. And of course, this is very critical to her ability to do her job.
Meantime, the president is railing against former FBI Director James Comey, calling him a, quote, grandstanding liar in a campaign email. But in an article, you write that the book is, quote, also inducing a bit of post-traumatic stress disorder among Democrats. Can you explain what you call Democrats' Comey dilemma?
Yeah, right. Well, the Democrats have a very complicated relationship with James Comey. And in Comey's book and throughout these interviews that he's given, remember, he's on a weeks-long book tour. He's continuing to be asked about, and he's continuing to talk about his decision to come out twice with press conferences related to the Clinton email probe. And Democrats say that that was something that they believe swayed the election to Donald Trump. So they're still very bitter about that. On the other hand, though, they think that he is a credible, or they're trying to say he's a credible source, a credible witness, or a valuable witness for a possible obstruction of justice case. So they're kind of just trying to strike this balance here. You would think that Comey kind of really calling out the president's moral fitness, as he said, to serve in office would be something that is appealing to Democrats who, of course, want to gain seats in a midterm that's going to be a referendum on Donald Trump. You would think that they would kind of run with that. But because of their own really complicated relationship with Comey, because of the, real raw emotions that are still there directed towards Comey, they are also skeptical of the things that he is saying. And also, there are some who don't find him to be all that reliable.
Raw emotions is right. Caitlin Huey-Burns, thank you so much. Great to see you.